Hey, what's up guys? So we're here to go over the best guns in Apex Legends for Season 1. Now first off, I do want to go ahead and throw up a data chart that's going to show you the time to kill for every single gun in the game, which actually includes the L-Star, which is not out, but it has been data mined. They have found out how much damage it actually does. So basically this is the time to kill. Normally in any FPS game, you look at the time to kill for a gun, as well as its accuracy and how consistent the gun actually is. But I also want to mention, because Apex Legends is a little bit different, there are attachments that can completely change the time to kill on the gun. Now, what we're looking at over here is the time to kill for the guns in the game, but you'll see that there are sometimes the gun repeated twice in its text. For example, we're only looking at the body damage integers, by the way. So basically, this is considering the target to have 200 HP, which is the purple armor, and we're not getting any headshots. We're just counting the body shots. You guys can see the time to kill on all of the guns in the game. Now you can see the devotion is #1 in that spot at 0.73. But if you go towards the bottom, you'll see the devotion LMG has a 1.65 also. And the reason why is because the devotion is a little bit different, because it does technically fire faster and faster, and it gets to a very fast fire rate. Now, because the turbocharger technically exists in the game, sometimes certain guns will be better with certain attachments, or if they happen to have a turbocharger that can completely change a gun. So keep that in mind as well. Don't look at this list and think, oh my gosh, this gun is considered in the S tier category or whatever category it might be. Sometimes different scenarios call for different weapons. And in addition to that, since it is a battle royale, sometimes you're out in the open. You can maybe favoritize a certain gun over another gun. If it's all in buildings, you might not be able to use a sniper as well. So just keep that in mind. I just wanted to mention that as a heads up. And the tier list that I've presented for you guys is going to be considering the guns at the raw state, but I will also mention if the gun becomes better at another state. So anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into it with the S tier category of guns, which is going to be the Kraber sniper rifle and the Mastiff. Now, the Kraber sniper rifle will not one-shot someone if they happen to have purple armor as well as a purple helm, or there can be other instances where they will have blue armor and a purple helm. I actually made a dedicated video going over the armor stats because certain guns in this game will do double the damage if they hit people in the head, but then there's also a damage reduction if they happen to have a certain color of helmet. And armor in this game does not reduce any damage, but what it does is it increases your health. I'm going to actually put this in the pinned comment because it's kind of an important video, because certain guns in this game have different multipliers. Like the shotguns will have a 1.5 versus most of the guns having a 2x, but because again, helmets will reduce the damage, it can actually factor in. But basically, the Kraber sniper rifle will give you, out of any of the snipers in the game, the most consistent way to actually one-shot your opponent. You will hit for like 180 on average. It's 186 to be exact if they happen to have the purple helm. But it's going to be the gun that is the only real sniper, I would say, in the game, other than the longbow. But that one will never really one-shot, unless, of course, they do not have any armor. Now, the Mastiff is the go-to shotgun. It's going to give you the most consistent amount of damage. However, it technically is outclassed if you happen to have the Peacekeeper attachment, but overall, it's going to be a much more consistent shotgun for majority of you. Because of the way the spread works for it, it's basically just a flat line versus the Peacekeeper basically being a star. Again, it's just more consistent to get damage out of the Mastiff. Next up, the category I think most of you guys really want to see, which is the A tier category. These are the best guns overall for most players because A, they are very easy to control, with the exception of maybe the Wingman and the Peacekeeper for some players on the console, because obviously it's a little bit more difficult to aim, especially because sometimes the aim assist can actually work against you when you're trying to go for a more precise headshot. You can factor that in as well. But pretty much what it really comes down to is these are the guns that have the highest stats as far as most players preferring them, but I also do think that they are legitimately the best guns in the game. The Wingman, if you are really accurate, you're going to be able to have that skull piercer attachment, and I will mention if the gun becomes better with certain attachments, but overall, most of the guns in this game will be better with their attachment, with the exception of one gun, which is the Prowler. You actually have a slower time to kill, theoretically, if you put on the attachment, which is the full auto. But anyways, Yeah, the wingman, if you've got accuracy, the wingman is definitely the go-to gun because it's really great for every single range in the game. And in addition to that, because this game has no damage drop-off, it's just excellent to get those long-range shots. But in addition to that, the R9, it's a super, super fast-firing gun. And again, there's no damage drop-off like in Call of Duty, where if you're shooting someone with certain guns from super far away, you'll just deal less damage and it's going to require more shots. In this game, it doesn't. Especially if you're able to control that R99's recoil, this gun is really excellent. The R31, just excellent overall for fire rate and also ease of use due to its very low recoil. The Spitfire is really here because it has a large magazine size, relatively easy to control, but overall the large magazine size, especially early on in the game, is just going to give you that huge edge. The Peacekeeper definitely is the go-to shotgun, and when you have some of the attachments for it, especially the one that can increase fire rate, as well as the one where if you aim down sights for long enough, you're able to get a more precise and accurate shot. Basically, it reduces the spread. It's just definitely the go-to shotgun in the game. It's the pump. Next up over here in the B tier category, these are also very excellent guns in the game. The Hemlock, the Eva, the Longbow, and the Devotion. The Devotion would technically be considered better with the attachment. I honestly would consider it in the A tier category. It's kind of one of those guns where I say it's kind of a sleeper gun. It's one of those guns that no one really uses. It's basically underrated, so to speak, in the game. When you have that attachment, it just melts, especially in the earlier stages of the game. Again, we're considering these to have no attachments. The reason why it's in this B tier category is really due to it simply being so great because of its large magazine size. A lot of times, especially early on in the game, especially when you're looking at two targets that have, let's say, level 1 armor, a lot of times you'll run out of ammo because you don't have extended mags, and basically, during the time that you're swapping weapons, the Devotion will just out-trade you almost every single time up close. But yeah, it's just really here because of its fast fire rate, and again, the large magazine size makes a pretty big difference. But anyways, the Longbow is here because it's pretty much the only, I would say, sniper other than the Kraber sniper rifle. But you kind of need an attachment for it, but it's still not that bad because you can get a shot for 55 from a pretty decent distance and then engage your opponent, where it's much more difficult for other guns to just get 50 damage, and sometimes you might get like 1 or 2 shots from. I'm talking super, super far away, by the way. But anyways, yeah. The Eva 8 is really great in the very beginning, especially when targets have no armor. It's just a fantastic gun, and even late game when you have the faster fire rate, it's still not a bad gun at all. Most people just end up dropping it late game, but it's still, again, not a bad gun at all in the early stages of the game. The Hemlock can out-trade a lot of guns at range, especially when you put it in single fire mode. Just an excellent gun overall, and yeah, next up though, we have the C tier, which I have a lot of guns over here. So the RE45, a lot of people don't actually realize this, but even though it has a small mag size, again, in the very beginnings of the game, most people will have to reload at least once, and because this gun fires super fast, you can unload a mag on someone and reload before they really finish even their entire mag. We're talking about no extended mags in the very beginning, and just on average as far as guns go, because obviously if they happen to have a Devotion, you're probably going to lose the fight because you're going to be getting out-traded because of their large magazine size. But in the early stages, the RE45 fires so fast, it's basically like a small, like if you guys have played Call of Duty, it's like a Cap 40. Basically, it's got a very fast fire rate, and that's simply why it's here. The Flatline, it lacks the attachments in the late stages of the game, but early on, it's not too bad. But next up, the Scout. It's kind of like a DMR, but overall, if you want a more DMR experience, honestly, the Wingman is going to offer you a much better experience, especially because this lacks the headshot attachment. Even if you're getting headshots, you're hitting for 60, you're going to have to still hit them 4 times in the head. And that's not even considering them having the headshot reduction when they have any of the armors here. But the Havoc, a lot of people really hate this gun early on, but here's the thing. The gun trades very well because, again, you have to reload in the early stages of the game, and the gun starts out with 35 shots, so it's not that bad at all. But it has that wind-up. If you have the attachment, it obviously becomes much better. Next up, the Prowler. Now, this is one that's interesting. It actually becomes worse with the attachment. If you don't have a fast trigger finger, that's also something that needs to be mentioned. But the reason why it's actually pretty good is because you can have the threat detector, which is, I have the gold one in this gameplay right now, but you'll see that that's why it's actually really good, is because being able to obviously see through smoke, through caustic, and other things just in the game, it's just really, really strong overall. But next up, the triple take. A lot of people don't like this gun. However, late stages of the game, when it's in an open area, it's not that bad. Most people end up dropping this gun because it's not really a sniper. Even though it's kind of considered a sniper, it's kind of like a shotgun sniper. It basically lets you deal small amounts of damage at a more consistent rate. However, if you are up close early game and you shoot it, it can kind of be, again, like a shotgun. But late stages, most people end up dropping it. But again, it does offer you to be able to deal a small amount of damage to people before engaging. And if you happen to get some headshots, it's not bad at all. The alternator is really here because of its slow fire rate. It just usually gets outclassed by every single gun. That's why it doesn't really see too much play. It does have really great hip fire, though. I will definitely give it that. But its slow fire rate is definitely what makes the gun not very good. Next up over here, I want to put the P2020 here because if we look at these guns over here, the P2020 is literally outclassed by every single one of them. I didn't want to really make this gun have its own like tier, but it's definitely much lower than any of the ones that you guys see over here. And then lastly over here, I'm sure a lot of you guys already saw this, dude. The Mozambique is got to be the bottom tier. It needs to have its own tier category because it's just simply not great in most circumstances because you will never be able to, with only 3 shots, down someone unless of course they have no armor. The headshot multiplier on this is only 1.5. Even if you land every single shot, each bullet hits for, or I should say pellet, hits for 15. You can only hit people for 45. And the consistency of this gun to actually land all those shots, good luck. Obviously people have been making so many memes about the Mozambique over on the forums, or if you're just visiting Reddit. It's definitely in its own category. I had to give it its own category. But now that we've seen all of the guns in the tier list, I kind of want to just wrap it up with like basically the screenshot of going over all the tiers. But I want to go ahead and hop into briefly. I'm going to actually make this a little bit smaller so you guys can see the gameplay. But basically, the thing is that keep in mind sometimes certain guns will be better for early game. If I happen to have an extended mag, I might take a flatline over at R301 early game. I'm talking about like if I just want to get a quick fight. Keep that in mind. Sometimes it's better to have a gun simply due to its extended mag. But anyways, this is my tier list, but I want to say that if you guys disagree, feel free to go ahead and tell me what your tier list is and if you would move anything on this list. But actually, you know what? I'm going to talk a little bit more here so I don't have to go back in my gameplay. But I want to say that as far as things moving up and down, due to having certain attachments, the only guns that I feel like have a huge advantage are really the Devotion as well as the Havoc, and that is with the turbocharger, which basically lets them fire faster. Technically the Havoc, it lets you fire sooner than faster, but the thing is even late game with the Havoc, the problem that I have with it, there is technically another attachment for the Havoc, which technically makes it hit scan, but that's the one gun in the game as of right now that technically has damage reduction on range because it becomes a hit scan when you have the purple attachment that just makes it a laser. Most people, and I hardly see anyone even using that. In fact, I want to say most people probably don't even know that you can put 2 different attachments on the Havoc. But the Devotion is definitely a sleeper gun. Don't sleep on the Devotion. It is definitely a good gun. And in fact, that brings me up to my next point. I'll be making a video going over the hidden gems or essentially the underrated guns of Apex Legends. And dude, the Devotion is really good. I would honestly consider it to be one of the best guns in the game. If you specifically go behind a wall, pre-fire, literally shoot the wall, then peek your opponent, you will melt them so fast. And going back to that chart that I brought up at the very beginning, it has the fastest time to kill in the game. Next up, I mean, it's really close. The L-Star, which isn't even out yet. We don't even know what the heck it really does. Although I technically have gameplay of it from Titanfall 2, which if you guys want to check that out, you guys can feel free to check that out. But the L-Star might be up for contention for it, but I think the Devotion, it still beats it. It's still a really solid gun. It just really lacks the range, especially because the rate of fire is so fast. Most people can't control it at range. But if you're a god on PC with controlling recoil, definitely just start using the Devotion. It's really good. I use it on console, or technically when I play on PC, I play with the controller anyways. I can control it. It's basically just down, but it's a little bit difficult to use, and that's why, of course, it's in that tier category. But anyways, that's my list. You guys can let me know if you would change anything down below in the comment section below. But anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good one. And if you're new here and you want to see more Apex stuff, and once we get the L-Star, which I'm hoping is this upcoming Tuesday, or we get that new hero, if you want to see more Apex and other gaming content, hit the subscribe button, turn on that bell, and you'll be notified when we get more content. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and peace. Let's just see that Victory Royale again. There we go. That last guy, dude, I feel so bad for him. He was just camping at the top. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and peace.